Hola, hola, I'm Zulean Cruz Diaz, and welcome to Una Preguntita. Each week, you and I dive into the stuff nobody really teaches us, how to lead, connect, and communicate better. Equal tools you can actually use. Grab tu cafecito, get comfy, and let's figure this out together. Esto es Una Preguntita, where curiosity and understanding lead to action. Vamos. Okay, Amigui. Every week, empezamos con una preguntita. We get started with a question. And the question I have today is, I'm working really hard, but feeling like I'm missing something. Like management is making decisions that don't make sense. I'm working my butt off, but it's not enough. And to top it off, I'm supposed to know how to manage workplace politics, but it sounds really messy. So how do I go about doing that? Bueno, amigui. Let me introduce to you a new term called business acumen. So, business acumen, according to Coursera, which we love, is an in depth understanding of how a business works, including its functions, strategies, operations, and how it fits into a wider marketplace. So, essentially, if we break it down, those are kind of fancy words, but essentially, if we break it down, what it means is you follow the money. Money leads to the business's strategy, which leads to its goals and why you do what you do in your position. I'm thinking back and I still remember my first job. I did not understand business acumen at all. Okay, so essentially, I was working as a project associate for a food system consulting company, and I really had no idea what my role was. So, me being me, I made up my own role and gave myself work to do. And in this company, it was just me and my boss. To give you a little bit of background, it was just the two of us. And I thought my whole existence was supposed to be to supply education about food systems to our followers. So that included a lot of work on socials, that included newsletters, that included creating articles, so on and so forth. And I was keeping myself busy. I was doing a lot, but I was missing a huge important piece. I was not paying attention to where the money was coming from, or really that it wasn't coming in at all. So we weren't getting any contracts in at the time. I started off busy with contracts, right, with different projects that we had. And then as time progressed, there was less and less of that. So then I started taking on more articles and more social media work and more newsletter work. And my time was spent in things that didn't move the needle to bring in contracts, to bring in work, to bring in, AKA money. In the end, my hours were dropped from my 40-hour week to 30 to 25. And eventually I had to step down because I wasn't making enough money to survive. I mean, do you see where I missed the big important factor? The big picture. I was so zoned in on my work of doing research, trying to get articles out, promoting other organizations that were doing work just like us. And I didn't think about the big picture, which was money and understanding business acumen. And this is the perfect transition. Mira, today, I'm going to give you 4 different bullets, leading with a question and breaking it down so that we understand what it is that we do in our positions and our jobs and how to amplify us, how to make us stronger. Because at the very beginning of my career, I felt like I was missing something. I'm trying to fill you in on that something that I felt that I was personally missing. So here we go. Punto número 1. How do I handle management decisions that make no sense? O sea, when a manager makes a decision, and from your point of view, it doesn't make any sense, what you do is that you have to look at the finances. Leaders juggle not only decisions, but they juggle budgets, they juggle risks, they juggle return on investments, long-term goals, et cetera, et cetera. And so when we forget to tune into what are they juggling, why are they making this decision, you go back to following the money. Are there revenues, expenses, margins that you're not thinking about? When you understand what drives profit, what drives money, you stop taking business decisions personally. It's not, I didn't do a good enough job. It's not, that was the dumbest decision you possibly did. It was they were looking at a bigger picture versus your position that's like zoned in. So that's number one. Learn how money flows. Punto número dos, la pregunta es, how do I stop thinking the company can't function without me? I was definitely very guilty of this one. As high achievers, we often think that the work that we do is so critical to the company's overall being that they wouldn't be able to survive without us. But what we do sometimes is that we make the decision, or we make the mistake, digo, of mistaking being busy for being essential. I'm going to say that again. We often mistake being busy with being essential. And you have to remember, strategy overcomes hustle. Strategy is more important than hustle. And the lesson here is, when you begin to think that the company cannot function without you, if you take one day off, everything is going to go and crumble without you. I want you to remember, you are part in the engine, you are not the entire car. I'm going to say it again. You are a part in the engine, but you are not the entire car. In order to make sure that the work you're doing is functioning, is essential, is strategy, and isn't just busy, you have to align your work with the company's strategic direction, not just doing. So I'm going to repeat that again. Número uno, the lesson was learn how money flows. Número dos, what we just talked about, you are a part of the engine, not the entire car. Adjust work to amplify the company's direction. Ahora, punto y pregunta número tres. How do I understand the politics without getting caught in them? Okay. On this one, I want to invite you to rethink the word politics as influence. Swap out the word politics for influence. So that question was, how do I understand the politics without getting caught in them? Well, if you begin to think of the word influence when you hear the word politics, I think that really changes your mindset. Influence can lead to negative results as well as lead to really positive ones. And so when we think of the word politics, or how I'm inviting you to think of it as influence, it's really how information travels, how much influence you have, what decisions are made. And you begin to realize that that holds a lot of power. When you're taking a step back and you're starting to put the little pieces together, okay, so-and-so said this in a meeting, which led to this email, which led to this project, which led to blah, 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 or this comment led to a shift in direction. You then start to put the pieces together. Why did that happen? What happened over here? And you begin to see how things actually move, right? We're talking about influence. Learn who holds real power and why. Influence moves through trust, timing, and tactics, not just titles. It could have been that the most senior individual in the group that holds maybe the smallest position actually influenced an entire shift in project, in goals, in strategy. So it's not just titles who has the power. Start stepping back and thinking. All right, I like going back. Here are the 3 points. Número uno, learn how money flows. Número dos, you are a part of the engine, not the entire car. Adjust your work to amplify the company's direction. And número tres, rethink politics equals influence. Okay, Amigui, I promised you 4. Here is number 4. How do I know when to give my all versus when I'm overworking? This one is actually really important. Sometimes doing everything doesn't mean doing what matters. So I personally am a business owner, and things can get really super busy. And I start thinking, oh my God, I need to post. I need to send these emails, reply back. I need to redo the payment system because it's not working. I need to update the website. I need to take out the trash. I need to strategize for 2026. I need to meet with so-and-so for a contract. Like the list goes on and on and on. Pero if I get too worked up in posts, replying to emails, taking out the trash, updating the website, I miss the really important things. I miss how money is flowing into my company. Remember? That's punto número uno. Realize how money flows. And so if I get so caught up in like, did I take out the trash? Yes. Okay, perfect. Did I update the website? Yes. But I never actually meet with so-and-so for a contract, aka money, or I never redo the payment system because it's not working, aka money is not coming into my bank account, even though people have their cards out ready to pay, money's not coming in. And I've missed one of the biggest parts of running a business. Even though I was kept busy and running and running and running to put up posts, to send back emails, to take out the trash, et cetera, et cetera. I often talk about this topic of like busy work versus needle moving work. And actually, next week, we're going to be talking with Victoria Habib a little bit more on the subject of doing more needle moving work versus just busy work. But I invite you to think, as a leader, use your time as an investment. Woo! Did you hear that? I'm going to say that again. As a leader, use your time as an investment, not a donation. Ask what moves the mission forward and what just keeps me busy. All right, Amigui. I'm going to repeat those four again. Número uno, learn how money flows. Dos, you are part of the engine, not the entire car. Número tres, rethink the word politics for influence. Y cuatro, use your time as an investment, not a donation. What is needle moving work versus busy work? The truth is, most of us enter the workplace thinking hard work alone is going to get us seen, it's going to get us successful. But unfortunately, success isn't just effort, it's awareness. That's where the business acumen comes in. I mean, I'm going to be honest, the people who rise fastest understand two things. They understand the system that they're in, and they understand how they themselves make an impact in that system. Once you're able to learn both system and self, you stop surviving the job and you start leading in it. So I hope you take forward a couple of these points because they are pretty important to understand.
Zulean. Zuli, ¿qué aprendiste hoy? What did you learn?
Hola, Titi Belma. Gracias por la pregunta. Mira, recently I was listening to Brene Brown on the DOC podcast, and her and Steven, the host, began talking about trust. She used what I thought was a really brilliant analogy of how to explain trust. And so, in her words, essentially, trust is like a jar filled with marbles. Every time somebody does something small for another, or for me, whoever it is, like when you're in elementary and somebody shares their cafeteria seat with you because the whole table is filled, or when you're there for somebody or a loved one during an emotional time, or when you show up for somebody in their recital, you begin to add marbles to their jar. And the more small actions like this, remembering, Oye, Juanito, how's your brother doing this cancer treatment? The more you build actually trust. And every time you do these small actions, you add one marble to the jar, you add another marble to the jar. And eventually this jar that is called Zulean or Juanito or whoever it is gets more and more filled. And so that jar symbolizes trust. So the more you add in these small actions or these small things, they make up a big part, something super important. So As I leave you today, Amigui, how are you growing your trust, not only at work with coworkers, but with your loved ones? If you're looking to grow your leadership skills and communication skills, I do one-on-one coaching to help walk you through your growth. So if you are ready to get going, because it is time, send me an email at heyz@zconecta.com and let's get something on the calendar. Let's do this. It's time to move. All right, Amigui. That's the show. Gracias for tuning in. I live by the line, the more you give, the more you receive. So that being said, make sure to share this with somebody that came to mind while you were listening. The more the show grows, the more you get from it. So, como siempre, I'm your amiga Zulean, and I'm sending you off today con un huge abrazo, Amigui. Nos vemos en la próxima.